Greetings and salutations, Greek students. We continue our study of participles by looking at some example sentences for the aorist passive participle, as well as the perfect and the perfect passive, middle passive participles. So these are some example sentences. These are from Clayton Croy's 20th chapter. I'm going to look at 3 example sentences in the practice and review. So the first sentence example is going to be sentence number 1. I'm going to read it in Greek, and then we'll get to translating it. E dexamen ta dora ta hagiasthenta kai enegka auta diaton thuron tu eru. So in this sentence, we have e dexamen. Now, this is not a participle. This is just a normal imperfect middle passive verb. It's from decomai, and what's happened is that it has become a dexamen. So what has happened here? Well, we have our epsilon prefix, which whenever we see the epsilon prefix, the lights should be flashing in our brains, and we should be going, oh, when I see that epsilon prefix, I know that I'm either looking at an imperfect or an aorist. Now, decomai is also an interesting one because decomai in its lexical form is middle passive. So this is one of those deponents. And so I look at it and I see that the key has become kasi. And so whenever the key has become a new form going to kasi, I know that there's a sigma that has come in. And the sigma is usually the sign of the aorist. And so this is those samen, this is that middle passive that middle aorist form. So it's middle because we're talking about a deponent verb. So I in the first person singular I received tadora the gifts. Now notice tadora is in the neuter plural, so it could be the neuter plural nominative or the neuter plural accusative. Because I am the subject in the e doxamen, I'm not looking for a subject. I don't need that, and it wouldn't make sense for it to be a neuter plural subject because I have a first person singular subject. I received the gifts. Tadora then is going to be our accusative, neuter plural accusative, even though formally it could be nominative, contextually it has to be accusative. Ta hagiasthenta. Now, ta hagiasthenta is a neuter plural aorist passive participle, that thenta ending. And again, in the neuter, this can be either nominative or it can be accusative. But because it's right after the tadora and I already have a subject, this is an adjectival use of the aorist passive participle. It's describing which gifts are we talking about. The gifts ta hagiasthenta, the ones having been sanctified. So this is from the verb hagiadzo, to make holy, to sanctify. I received the gifts, which ones? The gifts having been sanctified, and, a negka. This is one of those frustrating second aorist. So this is a second aorist verb. It's actually from the verb pharaoh, I bear, I carry, bring. So this is just a first person singular, second aorist active, and I brought, because it's that aorist snapshot, simple past action, and I brought auta, them. Auta is a neuter plural pronoun. And again, why is it neuter plural? Because it's referring back to the gifts, the tadora. And because the pronoun will always agree with its antecedent in its number and its gender. So it's neuter and it's plural because it's referring back to the gifts. And so in this case, it also agrees in the case because it's the direct object. I brought them, that is the gifts, through the door of the temple. through, dia plus the genitive is through, dia plus the accusative on account of. In this case, it's plus the genitive. Through, not the door, the doors, genitive plural, to eru of the doors of the temple. This is a good example of the aorist passive participle functioning in that attributive participle function, that it's describing which gifts are we talking about? The gifts that have been sanctified, because those are the only gifts that you can bring in through the doors of the temple. Let's look at sentence number 3 as another example. Didax thentas hupa tu didaskalu kai genoskomen, tain karen tu theu kai genoridzomen, alois autain. Now, this sentence, when you see this didax thentas, this is from the verb didasko, and it's become key here because it's that kappa. It's become didasko is didak thentas. When the theta combines here, you can see how it becomes didak. So didak thentas. The other thing that's interesting about this aorist passive participle is we want to make sure that we pay attention to the case, because we could look at this and go, oh, this looks like a genitive because of that sigma ending, but it's not thentas, it's thentes. So this is going to be the nominative plural masculine. Aorist passive participle. So having been taught by the teacher, and probably after, because remember, notice this participle doesn't have a definite article. It's set apart. It's not a genitive absolute because we don't have, this isn't, the participle itself is not in the genitive case. So it's describing, it's an adverbial use of the participle. It's describing what's going on as it relates to the main verb, genoskomen. So after having been taught by the teacher, we both know, and I'm saying both because we have a kai. We both know the grace tain karin, direct object, the grace, accusative, singular, feminine, noun, grace of God, and we make it known to others. So the it, autain, is feminine singular because the antecedent is tain karin, feminine singular. And remember, pronouns always agree with the nouns, with their antecedent in their case, or not in their case, in their number and their gender. Their case can change depending on what function the pronoun serves in the clause that it finds itself in. In this instance, the case of the pronoun autain agrees with its antecedent. They're both accusatives, but they wouldn't have to be. And so we have, after having been taught by the teacher, we both know the grace of God and we make it known to others. Let's do one more example here. Blep antes tus kalus uranus kai tain agathein tain pepistu kamen hati ha kosmos ektisthe hupa tu theu. And again, blep antes is that nominative plural. You might go, oh, blep ontas, and go, oh, it's a genitive, but it's not a genitive because it's on tes from blepo, I see, And so when you have this participle right at the very, not, it doesn't need to be the beginning, but it's notably doesn't have a definite article, so it's anarthrous. It's a circumstantial participle. It's describing the circumstances of our main verb. Here, pepistu kamen, the first person plural perfect active indicative. So when or while, I think we're going to go with when because we have a perfect participle. It's happening at the same time. This adverbial participle is happening at the same time as the main verb. When seeing the beautiful skies, and we could say beautiful heavens, beautiful skies, and I'm saying skies because it's plural. We could say heavens, we could say skies, and we'll say heavens because we're getting biblical, but the idea is the same. Beautiful heavens and the good land. When seeing the beautiful heavens and the good lands, we, first person plural, perfect active indicative, we have believed. So, and again, the perfect tense, present state of the past action. So we're in a present state of having believed what? Content of what we believe. Hoti could be because, could be that, but again, when you get these verbs of thinking, of seeing, of speech that are describing content, the hoti is going to mark, oh, what's the content of the belief? We have believed that ha-cosmos, the world, ekatiste, this is from the verb katidzo, and this is actually third person singular, aorist passive, was created, hupa, by God. So in this instance, we've got that adverbial participle that's setting up the circumstances that are coordinated with having believed. So it's when we look up and we see the skies and we see the good land and it's a beautiful day, and so we're in a state at the same time of doing that, we have believed, we're in a present state of having believed that the world was created by God. So in this instance, you have just the present active participle being used, the perfect tense. But again, the timing of the participle is defined not by the tense of the participle. It's defined by the tense of the participle in relationship to the main verb. So in this instance, we have a perfect main verb, a perfect active main verb. And so that's what defines the when of the seeing. It's when we have believed while at the same time as seeing the beautiful heavens and the good land. So these are a couple of examples of participles, particularly these aorist passive and the perfect passive participles in the real world, or at least in example sentences to show you how you might go about deciphering them.